In this city, I'm the first South Asian councillor and first South Asian mayor.
The new mayor of Brighton, pretty near where you're from, Joe, has been sworn in and is Muslim. Now, me personally, I don't dispute anyone's religious freedoms. If you're a follower of Islam, of course you should be a follower of Islam if that's your thing, or if you're an atheist or any of the other made-up wrong religions. No, I think they all should be followed. But what sort of strikes me as interesting is in Britain, which is of course a secular but nominally Christian country, in particular I draw attention to the fact that the authority of the monarch is meant to be derived from divine authority. It's God that apparently, according to, I feel, they won't say constitutional law because Britain has no constitution, but to Britain's, inner national mythos, the reason we have a royal family is because the royal family has been appointed by God. So that's kind of, and it's a Christian God in that instance, so it's by definition a monarchy, and the monarchy is Christian, so it's somewhat a Christian country. So what do you think about this? Let's have a look.
Gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Before I come, I learned a little bit Rwandan. Miriwe neza.
Also, by the way, who's the geezer in a bowler hat? And why is he standing there like that? What's that mad Bradford and Bingley odd job get up all about? It's extraordinary. Now, I actually think that mayor looks like a nice person. I think he's emanating a pretty warm vibe, and I think public service should and could be done by anyone who's got good, solid values when it comes to community service, kindness, love, non-corruption, non-bias. But it's interesting, the explicitness of the religiosity, i.e. he says, Assalamu alaikum, at the very top of it. I think he said another sort of Muslim thing during it. And again, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying, is there equivalency to that? Would someone say, well, of course there is, you moron, when Parliament begins, or every time you're in a court case you swear on the Bible, which is odd because it's a secular country, and when I swear on a Bible at my trial, I bet I'm the only person in the room who believes in God. So don't you think it's interesting that something can be so explicitly religious in a country where its stated religion has been not suppressed but kind of submerged?
Amakuru Yanu. It is my great pleasure as Mayor of Brighton and Hope to warmly welcome Ambassador Bushinje to our wonderful city today. As you come from Rwanda, I come from Bangladesh. So we are equal now in the diversity, Ambassador and Mayor of Brighton from the diverse. In this city, I'm the first South Asian councillor and first South Asian mayor. We are fortunate to have...
I don't think there's anything, of course, wrong with having a South Asian mayor or representatives of a country's political system that were not born in that country. But I suppose what we're doing is we're really testing the boundaries of what a nation is. A nation is, by definition, a contained set of land, laws, represented by a flag, in some cases a constitution, usually by some shared ideology, a bunch of tax rules, some legislation, generally beneficial to elites that operate beyond those very borders. So I certainly don't encourage working people from around the world to get locked in deadly tension with one another on the basis of race or religion. That's the worst and most stupid thing we could possibly be doing. But it does tell you something interesting about a country's sense of identity when our own religiosity, our own faith in God, our own faith in real meaning or purpose has been sublimated to such a degree, and we are yet somehow celebrating external, extraneous, secondary, different faiths. Joe, you're from around there, mate. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a big Muslim area for sure, so it seems like a strange move. And I don't know, man. I do think if you're going to be the mayor of a place, you should be from the country, really. Should you not? I mean, you understand the culture, you represent that place, you should be from that place, I think, anyway.
I wonder if I could become like a mayor, or like I'm in exile right now in the United States of America. I love this country, I love these people, but I wonder if I could get into office here It's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting. There's a lot of talk in Scripture about nations being under God, nations being secondary to God, and almost the indication that nations will be overwhelmed at some point by God. And that's partly what I think we might be experiencing now, that people may start to identify with something. In fact, we all do. You know, I identify probably with my own family, I would say, more than my Englishness. I'm more concerned about my dog than I'm concerned about, you know, bloody hell, to be honest, the potential of Britain being in a war with Russia. Because in truth, the nation is an abstract concept bolted on. So I think they should be careful with messing with the fragility of an abstract concept like nation, which for a long while in a country like ours, the UK, was utilised to get generation after generation to fling their lives before the foreign fire of, in general, German machine guns, and only now is that nationhood being revoked in favour of a word he said twice there, diversity. And it's likely that word diversity is part of a mandate in the same way that, you know, safe and effective crops up in news reports around vaccines. Dave, what do you think of a British political system that enshrines and celebrates the religiosity of, in this case, a Muslim mayor so overtly?
I think that's fine if it is natural. It seems like a forced agenda to come in and push and like forcing a change in culture. That's the part that, like, I mean, it's got a bad feeling to it that, hey, we're coming in here with an agenda, that it's not a natural thing built from the culture, that this mayor's coming up. It's, oh no, we're going to place him in there so that we can change the culture, and it's a forced, I don't know, it feels like agenda behind it.
What I liked when I lived here, I reckon you're right. When I lived in East London, I was around a lot of Muslim folk and visited the East London Mosque a couple of times. I was really interested in Islam because Muslims were against the establishment power that I considered to be the most serious threat to individual freedom of all people, Muslim and non-Muslim at that time. This was around the point of Iraq and Iraq 2 and Guantanamo Bay and people getting arrested and interned. And I thought, yeah, the Muslims, man, they got a case, they got a point in this lot. You know, and I thought it was pretty cool. And I learned a lot. And what was his name? I spoke to this guy that had been a British guy that had been held in Guantanamo Bay, illegally arrested, and I learned a lot about the persecution of Muslims. And I think it's a real thing. But I also now believe, Dave, like you, that part of the domestic disruption that's being caused in countries like Germany, the United Kingdom, and to a lesser extent your country, the United States, it seems to be sort of different here, is as a result of migration programs that are deliberately disruptive. And I became aware of it mostly when it started happening in Ireland, because in the country of Ireland you can't make the same claims that, well, Britain went around the world colonising an imperial force, disrupting all of these nations. If eventually that leads to those countries being so war-torn that there's a refugee crisis, Britain should pay the price. And I was like, I can see that argument, And America's a global economy that exploits its relationships with secondary nations, and every nation is secondary to the United States, and that causes, whether it's lithium mining across the world or whatever's going on with cobalt in the Congo or wherever, you know, America's power is causing disruption. I can see why America's a nation built on migration. But when it was Ireland, I thought, hang on a minute, those guys didn't do that. They were colonised by the British, oppressed, had to fight for their national identity, and they were saying the same stuff, they being the globalist media, about Ireland. You're racists, da-da-da-da-da. And I thought, no, you can't play it. It's a lie. It's definitely a lie. And then I saw a brilliant article by, now don't be childish, the Chinese artist Ai Weiwei. Ai Weiwei was is a like sort of Chinese artist who had lived in Germany for a time as a refugee. Did Ai Weiwei? And Ai Weiwei, like when he left China as a refugee, I said, don't be childish. Ai Weiwei left China, and he said, like, you know, because he was a refugee and an artist for freedom of speech issues. He's just gone back to China because his mum was dying. He's been in seeking refugee status in Germany, Berlin, and he's like, Germany's worse now than China. Like, China's social controls are more relaxed, and it's a less messed up country than Germany. I remember Ai Weiwei, don't be childish, because like Ai Weiwei contributed when I'd done The New Statesman, was my first gambit into the political in the UK when I said there's no point voting. I was the guest editor of a magazine called The New Statesman because my girlfriend at the time, Jemima Khan, was sort of affiliated with it, and she got me to do it. And anyway, I got good people involved. Shepard Fairey done the cover, David Lynch did a bit, Alec Baldwin did a bit, lots of people did stuff for it, and that's when I said there's no point voting. And the magazine itself, the Snides, did an article the very next week saying why Russell Brand's wrong. Like, they got another actor, this sort of actor at Our Peep Show, Robert Webb, a show that all the English people in this show love, actually, and it's so funny and brilliant. Like, they got him to say Russell Brand's crazy and he's an idiot and read some fucking Orwell. And I've actually read quite a lot of Orwell, all George Orwell, actually. And it turns out George Orwell was against totalitarianism and did not feel super encouraged by the tendencies of social democracy and how they slide towards totalitarianism, I now know. But don't be childish, he was one of the people that contributed, and it was just really interesting. I was thinking about how much my life has changed since I started to publicly talk about politics. First then with saying not vote, then when I started talking about running for Mayor of London in around 2014, 2015, then when during COVID I made all this YouTube content where I criticised Moderna, Pfizer, then going on from that, attacking state interests. It's just interesting how much my life has changed, and I'm grateful for all of it because I've found the Lord, and I recognise now that you can't attack state power really from anywhere other than truth. If you don't have access to a profound truth, you're just going to be locked in a cultural conflict forever.
Thanks for watching the video. Have a look at this one over here, or join us Monday, Wednesday and Friday on Rumble.